Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us here at Book Blather. If you're new here, I'm Dave, this is Olive, and we talk about books and sometimes some other things. So this is our latest update for Horror Mayhem. This is the monthly reading event that we do each May, focusing on short horror fiction, novellas, short stories, started by the bookish Bryants. And so we usually do this on a weekly basis, and that's what we plan to do this year. And of course, we fell behind. We said we weren't going to fall behind, and of course, we did. I should have known better. We had a work trip, out-of-state, multi-day work trip, and then we had some medical issues. Right? For those of you that don't know, Olive tripped me up with the leash a few weeks ago, and I cracked my rib. And then she hurt herself and tore, on a separate event, tore her own knee ligament. And I had this flare up, with this muscle flare up that I get now and then. It's like really bad. So I was drugged, I had a hard time walking, drugged up for a few days. So, yeah, I got a cracked rib, trouble walking, and I got to carry her around because I got to carry her everywhere because she's on full bed rest. She's not supposed to walk, and she freaks out and tries to chase me if I'm not right next to her. So, anyway. So instead of a week 2 wrap up, we're just calling this our part 2 wrap up, where we're going to tell you the next few things that we read for Horror Mayhem, and then we will do one more when May is done to wrap it all up. So we have 2 things to talk to you about today. So the first thing is we always try to read a novella each week when we do Horror Mayhem, and so this one was Ring Shout by I think it's P. Jelly Clark. I don't know if I mispronounced that, but I think that's right. And so this was published in 2020. And we were really excited about this book, right, Olive? We were really excited about it because so he's a well established author at this point. He's published a number of different things. This book got a lot of accolades. A lot of people like this book, and this book won the Nebula Award. So we were really excited about this, and we really wanted to like it, and we just really didn't like it very much. So let me tell you what it's about. So this is set in like 1920s Georgia, and I think you get a hint from the cover of basically what it's about. So this is in the I think it's 1920 it was set, I think, about. And so it's like post-Civil War, post-Reconstruction. So this is like right in the middle of like Jim Crow era. So there's a lot of racial prejudice and segregation. And so this is kind of, I don't even know what kind of, it's horror, but it's like, it's hard to put it in one genre because it's kind of like, sort of like a fantasy alternate history of that era, because there are these sort of magical, supernatural elements to this. So it mostly follows this team of a couple of young women, and they hunt Ku Klux Klan members. So like a big scene in this is the old movie, The Birth of a Nation, a controversial movie, like 1915, I think, that kind of like reignited the Ku Klux Klan. And so this kind of takes that, but it's kind of like, like religiously or like magically produced or inspired, or not inspired, but it's kind of like it has a magical source basically, and causes this, reigniting of the Ku Klux Klan movement, which is made up of, there are the clans, which are ordinary Klansmen, and then there are the Ku Kluxes, which are actually like demons, in Ku Klux Klan gear, but they're like devils basically. And so this team, they hunt them. This team of young women are hunting these Ku Kluxes, and so they do a lot of battle with them. And our main character Maris, she has this sword that comes to her when she calls it, and it's like powered by like old spirits, and some old cultural spirits, and and then this sword has like all sorts of crazy power, and she fights, and she has these team members that fight in other ways, and so there's this whole sort of mystical element around this battle, and there's some other characters, of course, and these Ku Kluxes, they kind of like their demonic power kind of like feeds on hate, and so I feel like with this book, I feel like, honestly, I feel like I didn't fully get it. And so maybe, some of you can give me some insight on this. I buddy read this with our good friend Gareth over at Book Songs and Other Magic, and he liked it. I mean, I think he had a tough time getting started, but then by the end he really liked it. And I just didn't get it. It's a book that I feel like had a lot to say, on issue of, racial prejudice, and so I feel like it had some things to say, and I didn't get them. And there were, some, there was like a really cool, like towards the end of the book, it was really cool because these demons feed on hate, and there's kind of a big twist with that, and kind of explores like different kinds of hate, and so. So there was some neat messaging in there that I understood, but it was, the first thing that I didn't like about it was there were the vernacular that was used like throughout the book. A lot of it's told from Maris's perspective, and that is already, it's like, I'm not an expert on, variations, these older or ethnically modified versions of modern day English, but it was it basically was like a broken English to me that she was talking in a lot of the time. I wish I'd give you I should have done this. I'd give you an example, but like the music at Frenchie's so loud I feel it on my insides. The piano man up out his seat, one leg hanging off the grainy wood. So, like there's verbs missing in one sentence or a noun missing in the next sentence. It's kind of this like really truncated English, which I found difficult to read at times. But at least I can mostly understand that. But it made for like really like hiccupy reading. Like I would often have to like reread the sentence. And then a lot of the dialogue with some of the other characters, they spoke in a really, some of that vernacular that they used, I couldn't even understand it. I couldn't even understand that dialect. So most of the sentences, I just didn't even know what they were saying. So I found this book really, I understand what he was trying to do, and he's trying to make it authentic for the time and the people in that time, but it made for a really difficult reading experience for me. It was really hard to read. That's probably just me. I'm sure other people would have an easier time with it, but it was hard. I also just like I said, it was this weird mixture of, so it's like an alternate history and fantasy and horror and, this mysticism, and it was just really weird to me. Just weird stuff would happen with like, the sword and the conjuring up the magic and stuff. And it didn't even all I had a hard time kind of like piecing it all together. It didn't seem like a very cohesive, power system or magic system or whatever you want to call it. It was I was kind of like just like stumbling around through the book. So I don't know what to say. I want to say I don't like when people normally say this, when they say this just wasn't for me. But that might be the case with this book. I don't want to discourage people from reading it because it got a lot of awards and it won the Nebula and it was shortlisted for a lot of awards. So probably a lot of people do like this. I think a lot of people do like it. It's just, it really wasn't for me. I didn't have a good time with it. And it was, for me, I think this is my worst book of the year so far, actually. But let us know if you read this and you have some insight that you can, maybe expound a little bit on what was really being explored here, from the sort of what kind of messaging regarding the racial segregation and prejudice and stuff of the times, what kind of, because I was having trouble like seeing any sort of like metaphor or messaging in this for the most part. So anyway, that's enough on that. Then the other thing that we read was we read another story. We've been working out of this book, The Best of Lovecraft, a lot of H.P. Lovecraft's famous stories. And we read one out of this one called The Whisperer in Darkness. That was a really long story. It's technically a novella, and it was pretty good. This was one of those ones that was kind of a little mixture of, some of Lovecraft stuff's just horror. Sometimes he mixes in a little sci-fi piece. And that's what this was. There was a little bit with I don't want to give too much away. This is a hard story to talk about without giving too much away. But basically it follows this. So our main character, he lives in Massachusetts, and there's these rumors of some strange beings showing up, floating in the rivers or whatever up in Vermont. And he's a skeptic. So he's on the side with some of these other skeptics that's really, trying to, downplay that any of these rumors about mystical creatures or creatures from another planet or whatever. He's trying to downplay all that. And then he gets correspondence from this guy, Akeley, up in Vermont, who very convincingly starts to tell him about all these first-hand experiences and this kind of sort of battle that he's doing with some of these entities. And he's very convincing, and he starts to, change our narrator's mind a bit. And then all of a sudden they exchange a lot of correspondence, and the guy sends him some evidence of things, like recordings and stuff. And then all of a sudden his tune, Akeley's tune in the correspondence changes. And so our guy, he goes up to Vermont to check this stuff out for himself. And when he gets up there, he finds, he discovers some things. And I don't want to say too much more than that because, when he goes up there, he does see Akeley, who's different, and he encounters some other people up there. And he finds a lot out about what the source of all these strange noises and the bodies and rumors. There's something to it, and he starts to find out about that. So and that's really all I want to say about it because I don't want to ruin it. But really good story. It is a long one, but it was definitely really good. So all right, so we'll leave it at that. That's the two for this one, for part 2 of the Horror Mayhem wrap-up. Like I said, there'll be one more coming. And, let us know if you've read either of those novellas and you have any thoughts on them, especially Ring Shout. We'd be really curious to understand a little bit more what we missed. So, all right. So sorry for the delay, guys. We'll see you again very soon. But in the meantime, take care of yourselves and each other, and we'll see you next time.